The millionaire learned the truth about his contract wife and destroyed the deal on the spot. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The sound of tearing paper cut through the silence like a blade. Not raised voices, not an argument, just the clean, final rip of thick contract pages being torn straight down the middle. She froze. Across the marble desk, the most feared millionaire CEO in the city stood motionless, his jaw set, his eyes dark and unreadable. The marriage agreement lay in pieces at his feet. Ink, signatures, clauses, all destroyed in a single, decisive motion. "This ends now," he said, his voice low, controlled, and absolute. She did not understand. Not yet. Only minutes earlier, that contract had been the only thing standing between her and unemployment, between survival and collapse. She had signed it knowing exactly what it was, a legal marriage in name only. No emotions, no expectations, no love, just appearances, schedules, and silence. She had agreed because she needed the job, nothing more, nothing less. She straightened her back, forcing her hands to stop shaking. "If I broke any rule," she said quietly, "I will leave tonight." The billionaire did not answer right away. He stared at the torn pages as if they were something poisonous he had finally removed from his life. "You did not break the contract," he said. "You destroyed the reason it existed." Her breath caught. Moments ago, a single truth had surfaced. A truth that should not have mattered in a transaction. A truth that should have been irrelevant in a deal built on money and power. But it mattered to him, and now everything had changed. Just weeks earlier, she had walked into his office with nothing but a thin resume, borrowed heels, and a calm voice that hid desperation. She had not asked to be saved. She had asked for work, real work, a role with clear terms and fair pay. That was when he had made his offer. A contract marriage. Public appearances, corporate dinners, family pressure neutralized. In exchange, a salary that would solve all her problems, health insurance, housing, security. He had been clear. "This is business. You will not fall in love. I will not pretend to care." She had nodded, because caring was a luxury she could not afford. Now the man who believed emotions were weaknesses stood in front of her, breathing hard, his composure cracked by something he had not planned for. "I will not keep you in a lie," he said, "and I will not keep pretending this is just a deal." She took a step back, her heart pounding. "Then I will go," she said. "That was always part of the agreement." He looked at her then, really looked at her. "No," he said. "That agreement no longer exists." The room felt smaller, heavier. Outside, the city kept moving. Cars, meetings, numbers, billions of dollars changing hands every minute. Inside that office, something far more dangerous had just been set free. Choice. And neither of them knew yet what it would cost. She stood there for several seconds after he turned away, unsure whether she had just lost everything or narrowly escaped something far worse. The office felt colder now. The torn contract remained on the floor between them, an invisible line she did not dare cross. She picked up her handbag slowly, the strap worn thin from years of use, and waited. He did not stop her. He did not tell her to stay. His silence was heavier than anger, so she left. The elevator ride down from the 47th floor felt endless. Each passing number on the digital display reminded her how quickly her life had climbed, and how fast it had fallen apart again. Only an hour earlier, she had still been the contract wife of the most powerful man in the building, protected, paid, secure. Now she was nothing more than a woman walking out with dignity, because it was the only thing she still owned. She stepped onto the sidewalk and was immediately swallowed by the city. Horns blared. People hurried past without looking at her. The world did not care that a deal worth millions had just been destroyed upstairs. She pulled her coat tighter around herself and started walking. She had not always been this close to the edge. There had been a time when her life was simple, not easy, but honest. She worked 2 jobs back then, one during the day, one at night. She paid her rent late more than once, but she paid it. She believed that if she kept her head down and worked hard enough, things would eventually turn around. Then everything collapsed at once. Her mother got sick. The kind of sick that came with hospital bills measured in thousands of dollars. The kind that insurance only covered halfway. She sold her car, then her furniture, then her jewelry. She stopped sleeping so she could work more hours. Still, it was not enough. That was when she answered the job listing. Executive assistant, discretion required, excellent compensation. She had not expected a billionaire. She had not expected him. From the moment she stepped into his office for the interview, she knew he was different. Not loud, not arrogant, just controlled, calculated. A man who trusted numbers more than people. He had listened to her without interrupting. He had noticed her shoes were worn. He had noticed her resume was too thin for the position. And instead of rejecting her, he had made his offer, a marriage contract. At first, she had laughed. Then she saw that he was serious. He explained it the way he explained everything, calmly, logically. His family needed a wife by his side. His board needed stability. He needed a solution. She needed money and a job. It was efficient. No emotions, no intimacy, no lies. She had taken one night to think about it. One night sitting on her bed, staring at the hospital bills spread across the blanket. One night deciding whether pride was worth watching her mother suffer. In the morning, she said yes. She never crossed the boundaries he set. Never asked personal questions. Never touched what was not hers. She treated the marriage like a job because that was what it was supposed to be. Until today. Until the truth he was never meant to know surfaced. She stopped walking and leaned against the cold brick wall of a building, closing her eyes. Her phone vibrated in her hand. For a brief, foolish second, she thought it might be him. It was not. It was a message from the hospital. Payment overdue. She exhaled slowly and lifted her chin. Whatever happened in that office, whatever decision he made after tearing up the contract, she would not beg. She would find another way. She always did. High above the city, in the silent office she had just left, the billionaire CEO stood alone. He had destroyed deals worth more than entire companies without hesitation before. But this felt different. This felt reckless, emotional, dangerous. He ran a hand through his hair and stared out at the skyline. For the first time in years, the rules he lived by no longer felt enough, and the woman he had just let walk away refused to leave his mind. The next morning arrived without ceremony. No headlines, no urgent meetings canceled, no apologies sent. She woke up before dawn in her small apartment, the kind with thin walls and a heater that rattled all night. For a moment, she lay still, listening to the city breathe outside her window, hoping that the previous day had been a bad dream. It was not. Her phone sat on the nightstand, silent and accusing. No missed calls, no messages from him, no instructions, no paycheck pending. The contract was gone, so was the safety it promised. She got out of bed, dressed carefully, and tied her hair back the same way she always did when she needed to feel in control. Then she opened her laptop and began applying for jobs, one after another. Assistant, coordinator, office manager, anything she was qualified for. By noon, rejection emails started to arrive. Thank you for your interest. We have decided to move forward with other candidates. Your experience does not meet our current needs. She closed the laptop and rested her hands in her lap. Panic tried to creep in, but she pushed it down. Panic did not pay hospital bills. Panic did not keep the lights on. Across town, the billionaire CEO sat through a board meeting without hearing a single word. Numbers flashed across a screen. Projections, acquisitions, quarter growth. All the things that used to matter more than sleep. He nodded at the right moments, signed where necessary, dismissed the room early. The second the door closed behind the last executive, he leaned back in his chair and stared at the empty seat across from him. The one she used to sit in during briefings, quiet and observant, never speaking unless spoken to. He told himself it was better this way. The contract had been a mistake, a calculated solution that ignored consequences. He had crossed it out of his life like an error in a spreadsheet. So why did his chest feel tight? He opened a drawer and found a copy of the contract he had forgotten to shred. He read the clauses again. Cold, precise, merciless. No intimacy, no personal attachment, no emotional obligation. He remembered the way she had followed every rule without complaint. how she never asked for more than what was written, how she never once tried to renegotiate. His assistant knocked lightly on the door. "Your wife's schedule for next week." He looked up sharply. "She is not my wife." The words came out harsher than he intended. The assistant hesitated. Understood. When the door closed again, silence returned, and with it, the truth he had been avoiding. She had never tried to trap him, never tried to benefit beyond the agreement, never pretended it was anything other than business. And yet, the moment he learned why she had kept such careful distance, something in him had snapped. That afternoon she visited the hospital. Her mother was asleep, pale against white sheets, machines humming softly beside the bed. She sat down and took her hand, forcing a smile. "It is going to be fine," she whispered, though she did not know how. The doctor stopped by with the same look she had learned to fear, concern mixed with hesitation. Another procedure recommended. Another bill estimated in the tens of thousands. She nodded, thanked him, promised to figure it out. When she stepped back into the hallway, her phone rang, an unfamiliar number. She almost did not answer. "Hello?" she said. There was a pause on the other end, a breath, controlled, familiar. "We need to talk," the billionaire said. Her heart skipped once, then steadied. "There is nothing left to discuss," she replied calmly. "I was wrong," he said. Not loudly, not dramatically, just honest. She closed her eyes for a second. "That does not change anything." "It might," he answered, "if you let it." She looked down the hallway toward her mother's room, toward the life she was trying to hold together with sheer will. "Then speak," she said. And for the first time since tearing up the contract, he realized this conversation would require something he had avoided his entire life. Not power, not money, but truth. They met that evening in a place neither of them owned. Not his tower of glass and steel, not her small apartment with peeling paint and thin walls. A quiet cafe on the edge of downtown, the kind where no one looked twice at who walked in or where they came from. She arrived first and chose a table near the window. Old habit, always aware of exits, always prepared to leave. When he entered, conversations softened without stopping. Not because anyone recognized him, but because he carried himself like a man used to being obeyed. He spotted her immediately. She did not stand. She did not smile. He sat across from her, placing his phone face down on the table, as if signaling that this time he was not hiding behind it. "I am not here to ask you to come back," he said. She raised an eyebrow slightly. "Then you should speak quickly." He nodded. "Fair." For a moment neither of them spoke. The silence was different now. No contract, no rules. Just two people who had stepped out of roles they had played too well. "I built my life on control," he said finally. "Numbers, leverage, certainty. I believed if everything had a price, nothing could hurt me." She listened without interrupting, her hands folded calmly in her lap. "When I proposed the contract," he continued, "I thought I was being honest, efficient. I thought I was offering you a solution." "You were," she said. "I accepted it." "Yes," he replied. "But I also protected myself from feeling responsible, from caring." His jaw tightened. "Learning the truth yesterday forced me to see something I did not want to admit. You never needed protection from me. I was the one hiding." She looked out the window, watching headlights blur into lines of light. "You tore up the agreement. That ended my job." "I know," he said, "and I will make sure you are compensated." She turned back sharply. "No." The word was firm, not angry, final. "I will not take money from guilt," she said. "If I return, it will not be because I owe you, and it will not be because you feel sorry." He studied her, as if seeing her clearly for the first time. "Then what would it be?" he asked. She took a breath. This was the part she had never planned for. "It would be because I choose to stay, with boundaries, with honesty, no contracts that pretend emotions do not exist." He nodded slowly. "I can accept that." She tilted her head. "Can you?" The question landed heavier than any negotiation he had ever faced. "I do not know," he admitted, "but I want to try." That was new. He did not say want. He did not say need. He said try. She stood. "Then we start differently." "How?" he asked. "You stop deciding for me," she said, and you stop assuming you know what I want." He rose as well, keeping his distance. "What do you want?" She met his gaze. "To work, to earn what I receive, to stand beside you because I am capable, not because I am convenient." The word convenient stung more than he expected. "I will give you a position," he said, "a real one, independent of anything personal. You will have authority, salary, autonomy." "And if it does not work?" she asked. "Then you walk away," he said. "No penalties, no pressure." She considered him for a long moment. Then she nodded once. "I will return on Monday." Relief flickered across his face before he could hide it. "Not as your wife," she added. He accepted that without argument. Understood. They walked out of the cafe separately. That night, alone in his penthouse, he stared at the city below and realized something unsettling. For the first time, he was not in control of the outcome. And for the first time, he did not want to be. Somewhere across the city, she lay awake, staring at the ceiling, aware that she had stepped back into his world on her own terms. And that made all the difference. Monday arrived with quiet precision. She walked into the building at exactly 8:30 in the morning, dressed simply, her posture straight, her expression calm. No designer labels, no borrowed confidence, just intention. The security desk checked her name, then waved her through without comment. It was different this time. No whispers, no assumptions, no invisible title hanging over her head. She was not the contract wife. She was an employee. Her new office was smaller than before, positioned 2 floors below the executive level. Glass walls, a clean desk, a nameplate with her full name engraved beneath the title, Strategic Operations Manager. She ran her fingers lightly over the metal before sitting down. Across the building, he watched from his office window as employees arrived one by one. Normally, Monday mornings energized him. Today, they unsettled him. Because for the first time, someone was walking back into his world without being bound to him. At 9 sharp, the boardroom filled. This was the test. Executives took their seats, voices low, laptops open, eyes sharp. Some nodded to her politely. Others glanced at her with curiosity they did not bother to hide. She felt it, the unspoken questions. Why is she here? How did she get this role? She met none of them with insecurity. When the meeting began, he introduced her without embellishment. She will be overseeing operational restructuring for our East Coast divisions. She reports directly to me. Her authority is absolute within her scope. A murmur passed through the room. The first challenge came quickly. One executive questioned a projected budget shift, dismissing her analysis with a thin smile. "That model looks optimistic." She did not flinch. "It is conservative," she replied evenly. "The data accounts for a 12% volatility buffer. If you would like, I can walk you through the assumptions line by line." Silence followed. She did. For 20 minutes, she explained, clarified, defended. Not aggressively, not emotionally, just clearly, precisely. When she finished, the executive leaned back and nodded once. "I withdraw my concern," he said. From the head of the table, he watched something unfamiliar unfold. Respect. Not given, earned. After the meeting, she returned to her office without looking at him. No smile, no acknowledgement. She was careful not to blur lines. She had asked for boundaries and she intended to keep them. That evening, the company hosted a formal donor reception. This one had been scheduled months ago. Attendance required, cameras present, expectations clear. She almost declined, but then she remembered why she came back. Not to hide, not to be protected, but to stand. She arrived in a navy dress, elegant, modest, unremarkable by design. As she entered the ballroom, heads turned anyway. Some recognized her, others remembered rumors. She stayed composed. When a guest made a pointed comment about her former role, she answered with grace. When another tested her authority, she redirected the conversation without defensiveness. He stood across the room, watching her navigate the space with a confidence that had nothing to do with him. For the first time, he did not feel the need to intervene. Later that night, as the event wound down, they found themselves standing near the terrace doors, not alone, but separate from the crowd. "You handled yourself well today," he said. "So did the company," she replied. He smiled faintly. "You earned every word spoken in that room." She met his gaze. "That was the agreement." There was no contract between them now, no obligation, no script, just two people learning new roles. As she walked away, he realized the truth he had been avoiding since the moment he tore up the deal. He had not lost control that day, he had given it back to her, and somehow, that made him want her beside him even more. The shift happened quietly. No announcement, no dramatic confrontation, just small moments that began to change the space between them. Late one evening, long after most of the building had emptied, she was still at her desk. The glow of her screen reflected in the glass wall as she reviewed reports for the third time, making sure nothing could be questioned. She did not hear him approach. "You should go home." She looked up, surprised. "I will, soon." He did not order her. He did not insist. He simply stood there, hands in his pockets, uncertainty flickering across his face. "You do not have to prove anything," he said. She leaned back slightly. "I am not proving. I am protecting my work." He nodded, understanding more than he expected to. That night, after she left, he remained in his office, staring at the city lights, replaying the day in his mind. He had spent years believing strength meant distance, that caring diluted authority, that closeness created risk, and yet, watching her choose excellence without needing validation unsettled him in the best way. The next morning she arrived early again. This time she found a cup of coffee waiting on her desk. Black, no sugar, exactly how she drank it. She paused, fingers hovering over the lid. She did not thank him. She did not mention it, but she drank it. Weeks passed. They worked side by side without crossing lines. Meetings, strategy sessions, difficult decisions. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes she challenged him directly, and he did not shut her down. He listened. He adjusted. That was new. One night, after a difficult call with overseas partners, he found himself standing in the hallway outside her office. The door was open. She was packing up, her shoulders tense. "Bad call?" she asked. "Worse than usual," he replied. She hesitated, then gestured toward the chair across from her desk. "Sit." He did. For a few minutes neither spoke. The silence felt earned, not awkward. "I never planned to be here," she said quietly, "in this world. I never planned to let anyone see me fail," he answered. She glanced at him. "You did not fail." He laughed softly. "That depends on how you define it." She studied him, noticing the exhaustion he never showed in public, the weight of decisions measured not in dollars but in people. "You are allowed to be human," she said, "even if no one ever told you that." The words landed harder than any criticism. Later that week, the company faced an unexpected crisis. A supplier collapse. Deadlines threatened. The board demanded immediate action. She worked through the night, coordinating teams, rerouting logistics, making calls she had never imagined she would be making months ago. At 3 a.m, he brought her a blanket. She looked up, startled. "I am fine." "I know," he said, "but you do not have to be invincible." She hesitated, then accepted it. That was the moment he realized the danger, not desire, trust. He had built walls tall enough to keep the world out, and she had walked in without trying to break them. When dawn broke over the city, they stood by the window together, not touching, not pretending. "I do not want to cross a line," he said. "Then do not," she replied. "But I need to say this," he continued. "What I feel is no longer about control." She turned to face him. "Then what is it about?" He met her gaze, honest and exposed in a way that terrified him. Choice. She did not answer right away, because for the first time, she felt the same question forming in her own heart, and neither of them knew yet how close they were to losing the safety they had carefully rebuilt. The storm broke on a night no one expected. The gala was meant to be routine, a high-profile charity event, investors, media, a carefully controlled environment where every smile was measured and every word rehearsed. She knew the rules. Public events were neutral ground, professional, polite, no history, no assumptions. She wore a simple black dress and minimal jewelry, her hair pulled back, her posture calm. She arrived early, reviewed the seating chart, and confirmed logistics with the events team. She was there to work. He arrived later, stepping into the ballroom with the same composed authority the world expected from him. Cameras flashed, conversations paused. He acknowledged it all without effort. They did not arrive together. They did not stand together. And yet, eyes followed them both. The first sign of trouble came halfway through the evening. A board member she had only met once approached her with a glass of champagne and a smile that did not reach his eyes. "You have adjusted well," he said, "considering how you started." She met his gaze evenly. "I was hired for my qualifications." "Of course," he replied smoothly. "But people talk." She nodded. "People always do." He leaned closer. "They say the contract marriage ended abruptly. Some believe it ended because the terms were misunderstood." Her pulse steadied, not spiked. There was no misunderstanding. Across the room, he noticed the shift, the tension in her shoulders, the way her smile sharpened into something defensive. He started toward her. He did not make it in time. The board member raised his voice just enough for nearby guests to hear. It is remarkable how someone can rise so quickly from such an arrangement. Silence rippled outward. All eyes turned to her. She did not look at him for help. She looked at the board member and spoke clearly. "My position was earned. If you have a concern, address it professionally. If not, excuse me." Murmurs followed her as she walked away. The damage was done. By the next morning, the headlines were already written. Speculation, half-truths, questions framed as facts. The story twisted into something ugly and familiar. A powerful man, a woman who must have benefited improperly. She read none of it. She arrived at work early, as always, and focused on what could be controlled. By noon, the board demanded answers. She was not invited to the meeting. That told her everything. From his office, he listened as accusations filled the room. Suggestions that her presence was a liability, that the company image required distance, that decisions needed to be made. He realized then what this was, a test, not of her competence, of his integrity. "She stays," he said flatly. A pause followed. "She does not," another voice replied. "The contract history complicates perception." "There is no contract," he said. "I destroyed it." Silence again. "She has done nothing wrong," he continued. "If anyone questions her authority, they question mine." When the meeting ended, he did not feel victorious. He felt exposed. She was already packing her office when he found her. "I will leave quietly," she said before he could speak. "This should not cost you your company." He shook his head. "It will not." "This is not your fight," she said. "It is," he replied, "because I allowed the lie to exist long enough for others to weaponize it." She stopped packing. "What are you saying?" she asked. "I am saying I will not protect the company by sacrificing you." Her voice softened. "And if the board forces your hand, then they force me to choose," he said. The words hung between them, heavy with consequence. For the first time since the contract was torn apart, the danger was real, not emotional, public, and the choice he was about to make would change everything. The board meeting was scheduled for 8 o'clock sharp. She was not invited. She stood in her office anyway, jacket on, desk cleared, resignation letter saved but not sent. She had written it during the night, every word chosen carefully. Not defensive, not emotional, just clean, professional, final. If this was the cost of staying honest, she was ready to pay it. Upstairs, the room was tense before anyone spoke. Faces she recognized from headlines and annual reports sat around the table, measured and cautious. This was not about numbers anymore. This was about image, control, precedent. One director spoke first. "The situation has escalated. Sponsors are nervous. The narrative is damaging." Another followed. "We need distance, immediate distance." He listened without interrupting, hands folded, expression unreadable. "She should resign," someone said. Quietly. "We can frame it as a mutual decision." He exhaled slowly. "No," he said. Several heads turned. "She will not resign," he continued, "and I will not ask her to." A pause. "You are risking the company," a director warned. He leaned forward then, eyes sharp. "No, I am correcting it." He stood, reaching into his briefcase. "There is something you all need to see." He placed a document on the table. The original marriage contract, unaltered, signed, dated. Gasps followed as he continued. "This was a mistake I made," he said. "I created a transaction where there should have been none. And when I learned the truth, I destroyed it." He tore the document in half. Again. I will not allow that mistake to define her or this company. Silence swallowed the room. If anyone believes she advanced improperly, he said evenly, then my leadership is the problem, not her presence. Someone whispered, "You would step down?" "If that is the price of integrity," he replied, "yes." The weight of that landed hard. Downstairs, she checked her watch. 8:15. Her phone buzzed. A message from him. Just one line. "Do not leave." Her heart pounded. She stayed where she was. At 8:45, the boardroom doors opened. He walked out without looking back. When he entered her office, she was standing by the window, resignation letter still unsent. "It is done," he said. She turned. "What is done?" "I chose," he replied. Her voice was steady. "And the board?" "They agreed," he said. "Not because I forced them, because I was willing to walk away." She searched his face. "Why?" He did not hesitate. "Because I will not build my life or my company on your silence." The words broke something open. "I did not ask you to do that," she said quietly. "I know," he replied. "That is why it matters." She swallowed. "This changes things." "Yes," he said. "It changes everything." He took a step closer, stopping before crossing the invisible line she had drawn weeks ago. "There is no contract," he said. "No obligation, no protection except honesty." "And what are you asking for now?" she asked. He met her gaze, open and unguarded. "Nothing you do not choose to give." For the first time since this story began, the power was not in paper or position. It was in her hands. And she realized something then. He had not torn up the contract to claim her. He had destroyed it so she could choose him freely. The change did not happen overnight. It happened in the quiet spaces that followed. In the weeks after the board meeting, the noise faded. Headlines moved on. Investors refocused. The company stabilized, stronger in ways no quarterly report could measure. She remained in her role, not protected, not elevated, but respected. She earned it every day. They did not rush anything. No public statements, no declarations, no attempts to rewrite the past. They worked. They spoke honestly. Sometimes they disagreed. Sometimes they sat in silence, learning what it meant to exist without rules written by fear. One evening, months later, she found him in the office long after sunset. "You missed dinner," she said. "I forgot the time," he replied. She set a paper bag on his desk. "You forget when you are thinking too much." He smiled, faint and unguarded. "You noticed." She did. They ate quietly, city lights reflecting off the windows. No urgency, no tension, just presence. "I want to ask you something," he said after a while. She looked at him, cautious but open. "Then ask." He took a breath. This time, there was no contract, no audience, no safety net. "When you walked away that first day," he said, "what made you stop?" She considered the question. "Because staying without choosing would have destroyed me." He nodded. "And choosing now?" She met his gaze. "It only works if I am never owned." "I know," he said. "That is why I am asking." He reached into his jacket pocket and placed something small on the desk. Not a contract, a ring. Simple, elegant, unassuming. "This is not a proposal built on rescue or power," he said. "It is an invitation to walk beside me, freely, publicly, with no agreement except honesty." She did not answer right away. She thought of the woman who signed her name on a piece of paper to survive. The woman who walked away with dignity. The woman who stood in a boardroom she was never meant to enter and spoke anyway. She thought of how he tore up the deal not to claim her, but to release her. "Yes," she said. The word was quiet, but it was enough. They did not announce it with spectacle. There was no lavish engagement party, no press release. Just a photo framed on his desk months later. Two people standing on a balcony at sunrise, hands intertwined, city behind them. They married in a small ceremony, close friends, no contracts, no conditions. When someone asked him later what changed everything, he did not mention the deal. He said, "She chose me when she did not need me." And when someone asked her how she became the wife of the most feared millionaire CEO, she smiled and replied, "I did not become anything. I was chosen. And I chose back." Because the strongest agreements are not written, they are lived.